Take your time getting to know someone and just enjoy the journey. Hi there everyone, welcome to the Sort YouTube channel. My name is Paddy and a very warm welcome to you if you're new to this channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different and talking about top tips for dating as a Christian if you're brand new to Christian dating. Whether you're new to faith and you found someone that you've really connected with, or you've been a Christian for a little while now but you've never explored dating, this video is for you guys. These tips are a collection of things that I've learned from my own experience dating as a Christian, as well as wisdom from other people that I've learned along the way too. Tip number one. If you are interested in someone and you think that there's the potential for those feelings to develop romantically, be upfront with them and ask them out on a date to get to know them better. We're often really guilty of overthinking things when it comes to dating in a church setting. Whether that's worrying about whether this person is the one for us or not and hesitating as a result of that lack of certainty, or whether it's what other people might think and assumptions they might make about us spending time together one-on-one with another person. Or we might be worried about hurting the other person and ruining a potential friendship. These things can often hold us back and keep us in a perpetual state of hesitation and inaction. But I'm here to tell you that the regret that you'll have from not asking someone out that you're interested in is going to be so much greater than any regrets you might have from exploring the possibility of dating with this person. Even the worst case scenarios here are really not that life-changing. Either we find out that the other person isn't interested in the same way that we are, in which case we can put that to rest, or we find out that after dating for a little while, we might not be compatible after all, in which case both of us have learned something about what will and what will not work for us in a relationship. And do not let your hesitation be driven by fear of what other people might think or what assumptions they might make. At the end of the day, the only person we're accountable to truly is our Father in heaven. And as long as we're treating the other person with love, respect and dignity, it doesn't matter what other people think. But also, if you're not comfortable enough around this other person yet to hang out together one-on-one, that's totally okay. Another option you have available is to hang out together with a group of mutual friends and see how it goes from there. This is a much less intense way to get to know someone and carries a lot less pressure. Which brings us nicely on to tip number 2, which is don't date in isolation. Dating can be difficult enough to navigate as is, and if you're trying to do it alone, it can be even more challenging when you encounter unexpected hurdles or difficulties. From my own experience, I've been so blessed to have people in my life who know me well enough to know when I'm going down the wrong track or just provide me support and encouragement when I need it. And that applies to dating too. This is why it can be really beneficial when things start to get a little bit more serious between you and the person you're seeing to introduce them to your friends and your church family. These are the people that hopefully know you best and can therefore support you in growing your relationship together and also point out when things don't seem super healthy. This is also where having a mentor can be an immense blessing. Ideally, this should be someone who's already married so that they can help you to walk the path they've already walked themselves. But crucially, this should be someone that you trust enough to be totally upfront and honest with. And radical honesty can be a really powerful thing. It can take away the power of any shame we're holding on to, but can also allow us to grow in ways we couldn't possibly imagine. This is also why it can be really helpful to seek counsel as a couple too from people that you trust within the church. Just make sure that you're both really comfortable with this idea as a couple before committing to it. And also make sure that you really know and trust the people that you're putting your trust into. And on the subject of transparency and honesty, that brings us on to tip number 3, which is to make sure to discuss your boundaries early. Dating as a Christian can be especially challenging because everyone has different boundaries and different things that they're comfortable with at different stages of the relationship. There's nothing worse than going for a kiss after a date only to find out that the other person isn't comfortable with that until later on in the relationship when things have developed a little bit more. Believe me, I've been there and it's not fun. Similarly, in the case of a long distance relationship, one person might be comfortable with the idea of staying overnight on a sofa or a guest bed, whereas for someone else that might be crossing a boundary entirely. And there's actually some great biblical wisdom on this topic from one of Paul's letters. In Romans 14 verse 15 he says, "If your brother or sister is distressed because of what you eat, you are no longer acting in love. Do not, by your eating, destroy someone for whom Christ died." Now, I know that Paul's referring to food here specifically, but we can take this and recontextualize it to the idea of boundaries too. Well, the main point that Paul is trying to make here is that if someone has something they're strongly convicted about and they feel is sinful for them, then it would be unloving, unkind, and sinful for us to make them uncomfortable by doing that very thing. And that's why it's really important for us to not only be clear about our own boundaries, but to lovingly understand and respect the other person's boundaries too. Not only that, but when it comes to physical contact especially, it's really important that we're really clear on what someone is and isn't comfortable with. One of the easiest ways to break down trust in the very early stages of a relationship and dating is to cross a line we weren't even aware of because we hadn't put in the love and effort to learn about the other person's boundaries. So make sure you're really clear about that from the get-go. Okay, so tip number 4, and this really is the most important and crucial one and what everything else so far has leaned on. Make sure to include God in your relationship from the get-go. There's so many ways you could do this, and it's going to look different for different people depending upon what they're comfortable with and what stage of the relationship they're in. If you guys aren't ready to go to church together yet, that's okay. But do make sure that you're spending time intentionally with the Lord as a couple. That might look like doing a Bible study together, that might look like praying together, and praying for each other as well. And the great news is now there's so many ways to do this even when you're not spending time together in person. The Bible app, for example, allows you to complete a study together without having to be in the same room so that you guys have something to talk about, reflect upon, and pray together when you next see each other. Ultimately, God works all things together for our good, and when we intentionally invite Him into the most intimate areas of our lives, it's inevitable that fruit is going to grow from that. So why would we settle for less and pass up on the amazing opportunity to see the fruits of the Spirit grow within our relationship by putting God at the center of it? And my final top tip for you guys is to remember to hold dating and relationships lightly. There can often be this external pressure from fear of missing out, especially within a church setting where people couple up earlier and tend to get married younger. We should never let our fear of missing out drive our decision making, because that's a recipe for rushing headfirst into a relationship that's not going to be right for us. What if instead of convincing ourselves that this is the only person for us and putting pressure on both ourselves and the other person to make it work at any cost, we instead took a step back, trusted the Lord that He's going to use this experience for our good regardless of the outcome? I think we could all be a little bit more relaxed about the process. So as long as we use each one of those experiences to lean into the Lord more and to trust Him with this, that is ultimately a victory. And remember, slow is good. Marriage is a wonderful thing, but the chances are if we try and rush into that, we're not going to be making good decisions along the way about who to bring on that journey with us. So take your time. Take your time getting to know someone and just enjoy the journey. Take your time before putting labels on things, and don't put yourselves under the pressure of rushing into a relationship. And certainly take your time before you decide this is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, because it might be one of the most important decisions of your life. And instead of putting all this pressure on yourself, prioritize the most important relationship in your life. That's your relationship with Christ. And I promise you good things will follow, regardless of whether you're single or not. I turned 29 years old this year, and for the first time in years I can truly say that I'm happy that I'm single. I'm prioritising my relationship with the Lord, and I know that there's so much more growing I need to do before relationships become a priority again. And I promise you that you are not lesser than for being single, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do leave a like and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on TikTok and Instagram, and I'd love to hear some comments from you below on any tips you'd have for people new to Christian dating. So let's get some discussion going on this. But until next time, I've been Paddy, and I'll see you soon.